And here we are again talking about the Constitution line
by
line. What a great idea.
What a great idea.
Until we're actually doing it, then we're going, wow, there's a lot in this Constitution.
There's a lot in, and I'm telling you, people have been very hungry for this. There's been a lot of people that wish somebody would talk about the Constitution and explain it to them so that they can be informed discussants in current events. To me, this is missionary work on our part.
Missionary work, okay.
Yes, because we are trying to inculcate public virtue.
There you go. Public virtue, which we've talked about in the first and second episodes of this, I believe.
Yeah, we did talk a little bit about that. You know, this is important. So,
shall we get into it then?
Next line, Mr.
Next
Poli-Sci.
line. Okay. By the way, Paul Fabrizio.
Don Frazier.
Political science.
History.
Okay.
I tried to put the echo effect in there.
History. Okay.
Doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme.
We are on Article 1, which, of course, is the legislative branch, Section 2, the House of Representatives, Clause 4.
Now we're on the fourth clause.
Vacancies in the House. Here we go. When vacancies happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies.
So somebody has a heart attack on a softball field. Representative Corn Cob of the great state of
Corn Cob,
Rhode Island and Providence Plantation.
There you go.
That just means that somebody in the state house down in Providence, Rhode Island is going to have to set up a special election.
Yeah, the governor sets up a special election. So that means then that if a representative dies or is vacant for any reason, that district does not have representation.
That's an intolerable situation.
So because of that, those people really are out of luck. You know, there's a couple things that happen. The other districts, the other representatives from nearby, they will help out with people. The senators from that state bring a casserole. The senators from that state will step up their game. So they'll make sure that the people, if they have issues before the government, if they have issues with government agencies, they can hopefully work with them.
Aren't entirely abandoned.
Exactly. Okay. But the reality is that in terms of representation, that district is voiceless during this period of vacancy. The governor would then call a special election. And, you know, typically what will happen is there will be, with that special election, there will be first a primary election and then a general election. The primary election for the political parties to choose their nominee, and then the general election. So it actually might be a 6-9 month period of time for it to happen.
Takes time.
So, so far, here we are. We're filming this in 2019. I believe there has been one representative who died this year. He was from North Carolina. And so that district, there's a vacancy.
Isn't there a vacancy in a North Carolina district because of a contested election currently?
Right, and that's a whole nother thing. And we're actually going to talk about that later on when we talk about how the House sets up their own rules.
Yeah.
So there's those two vacancies, and I'm trying to remember if there was anybody who was elected and then got appointed to a government position. But that often happens. So, you know, we say there's 435 people in Congress. The reality is there's often one or two less.
Sure.
And my students, because on my first midterm exam this year, I asked the question, how many people in Congress? And my students all knew about that vacancy of the guy who died. And so they all came back with the answer 434. And I said, no, there's 435. Then they reminded me about the dead guy.
Trick question, man.
And
that was an ambush.
So anyway, they got it. They got it right. So, by the way, this is it's a limit on the governor's power, and I think there's a philosophy behind this.
Yeah, I mean, because you could just appoint somebody that you liked, and then you could start, hiring contract hits on people you didn't like.
There you go.
That were elected from your state. So yeah. So if you whack one of your own representatives, doesn't matter we're going to have to go through an election process to get them done.
Yes, we are.
See, I'm
Yes,
still thinking Rome again.
He still does. He still does. And I am thinking, what was the original idea of the House of Representatives? It was to reflect the will of the people. The only way you can do that is have the representatives be elected by the people.
Absolutely.
And so you're going to go through a vacancy period, but then, man, later on, you're going to have one of your people up there. So I think there's a really smart philosophy behind the House of Representatives.
Life insurance policy for congressman sounds like
He
to me.
thinks tragically.
I do.
You bring up something else that I just have to say. There has been, in American history, people who've looked at it have noticed that there's frequently a lot of members of Congress who die. And, you know, in the last 6 months, 8 months, there has been one senator who died, another senator who had brain cancer, but thank God she's recovered, and now a representative who's died. And we're talking 535 people, and
because that's on both houses.
Both House and the Senate, and we've had 2 people die and another one very seriously ill. Doesn't that seem a bit unusual? And there's some who actually say if you look at the death rate for members of Congress compared to the general population, it probably is a little bit higher than what you'd expect. And some would argue it's the stress, the constant going back and forth between your home and Washington, D.C. Others would say, what kind of people get into Congress? There are more people who are active, energetic, would do stupid things like, I don't know what.
Ski into a tree,
that sort of stuff. I mean, who knows? But it's
I wonder
just
what it was historically over time.
I believe historically it's higher. And, you know, it's funny. Some people have talked about the fact that the Capitol building was built on a swamp.
Yeah.
And swamps in the old days, and you were more about this.
Miasmic vapors.
Exactly. Fetid air is
Fetid
how,
air. The night air killed him.
And you read the congressional record of some of the debates, and people would comment during those debates about the air in the Capitol building. And it turned out the air in the Capitol building was basically the swamp air that was brought in by early air conditioning units. Mm-hmm. The idea was we just need to bring the air in from the outside into this place. Well, the air outside was horrid, so let's bring it in here. And people got sick. And so some have said, well, it's the building. Allergies. They might have had allergies. Some would say it's simply a sick building syndrome in the Capitol building. Who thinks about this? But anyway, it's just one of those things that members of Congress just seem to die a little more frequently than you would expect.
A little more each day.
No, that's us, the American people, who die a little bit more each day as we watch our members of Congress in office.
Okay, keep mixing that up.
But we want to say real quickly, at least for me, I have the highest respect for people who do this.
Oh, absolutely.
This is a horribly tough job.
Terrible, terrible job to have to do.
I still can't get my head around how you represent the will of 770,000 people. You can't. And as Don said,
1 for 30,000.
1 for 30,000 is Don's answer.
It's the Constitution's
It's the
answer.
Constitution's answer.
But if one of them dies, we know how to replace them.
We know how to replace them. All right.
All right. That was a good line. Nice, short, to the point. That's it for this line.